Hans Wormhat.
Oh man, it's this guy again. Hans Wormhat. I just cannot stand the sound of that name at this point. I'm going to call you Super Hands, mostly because I like the Britcom Peep Show and because a character from that show with that name is a strung out conspiracy touting madman, and, well, I think you two would probably get on like a house on fire.
In this video, I just want to talk about one other small aspect of why there's so many churches.
Why there's so many churches? That is a stumper, isn't it? Why would a nation largely founded by Christians have a lot of churches? Well, there's only one rational explanation. Something, something, something. Conspiracy. I mean, if I was to make an actual guess, it'd be aliens. Don't ask me why, but it feels like an aliens kind of ting.
It's a little bit more than just a divide and conquer tactic.
Sorry, divide and conquer tactic. Divide and conquer who? Like, fine, if they just started randomly popping up today in non-Christian places for no reason out of nowhere, then fine, maybe that's a bit weird. Just a bit. But we're talking about buildings that would have been built by communities of Christians, or whoever the hell else needs churches. If there's one thing a lot of religions have going for them, it's that whole community spirit ideal. Well, I mean, if you're into that kind of perverted crap anyway. Did you know that these people, they actually spend time with each other because they want to? Oh, it's degeneracy of the highest order.
There's kind of a necessity to have as many churches as we do.
Really? Aren't some of the older parish type churches kind of dying out in not all, but like quite a few areas? I think that's part of the reason you end up with those, somewhat ironically, god-awful mega churches. Because, and again, this is just speculation, but I would assume that the people who are more dedicated will travel further for a service. So surely there are less, or at least they are less in original use than they used to be. But sure, why not? Let's just roll with it. Why is it necessary? One would think it's because people use them to do whatever it is people do in churches. Orgies or demon summoning or whatever those crazy kids are up to these days. But I'm going to bet that's not your take. Just a guess, mostly from the fact that you are super hands.
Tell you what, that crack is really Moorish.
And it's because there's a lot of old world church buildings that are still here today. And
you know, I was expecting more. There have to be a lot of churches because there are a lot of churches. You know, it's that kind of logical thinking that makes you the respected intellect. Couldn't finish that sentence with a straight face.
so you have these small towns on some place like, say, the west coast of America. And this is supposed to be no man's land.
No man's land? What are you even talking about? Anywhere a person can get to and build a flipping church is not a no man's land. And if these were genuinely completely inaccessible by man or beast, which, is there even anywhere like that in the US that isn't like up a mountain or guarded by the military stroke government? And yes, I have heard of No Man's Land Island, which is an amazing name, but that comes under the guarded by government thing in so much as you get into trouble for going there, so shut up. But if they were genuine no man's lands, wouldn't it be really weird that there were random buildings there for no reason? And people might go, why is that building there?
There were only supposed to be, I don't know what, like Indians out here and no structures. And yet
people went there and built things. Do you think that they just like turned up there and there were already churches for them? Who? How? Why would that be the case? Pretty sure the Native Americans wouldn't have been building them. And talking of Native Americans, I thought it was a no man's land. Pretty sure they count as mans. You're not even consistent sentence to sentence, for crying out loud.
these alleged, the people who went on the Oregon Trail.
They are alleged, are they? Wow, that's just some next level conspiracy nonsense. what exactly do you think our histories look like? I would be fascinated to see your version of events from, say, 1,000 years ago up until now. It's just I'm thinking about writing a fantasy novel and I can't actually be bothered coming up with my own outlandish nonsense, so might as well contract you out to do it. Have people play to their strengths. That's what I always say.
When you think of the type of people that went to the West Coast, do you think of, like, what type of people do you think of?
Badgers. Endless badgers. That's what they're hiding from you people. The founding fathers, badgers. Every member of royalty, badgers. Jesus, so many badgers formed together to create an uber badger with all the powers of a badger and none of the drawbacks. No wonder people thought him a god. And by people I of course mean badgers.
If you think of kind of rugged cowboy type people,
No, you don't. Seriously now, have you actually even bothered to look at any history books? They were people. Just people. Sure, they were probably a little bit more adventurous than your average bear, but they would have just been fairly standard people of the time, trying to find some place to call their own. If anything, the journey would have made them more rugged, not the other way around.
what were these rugged cowboys doing building these structures?
Oh my god, are you joking? You're not, are you? I've heard the claim before that Hans is a troll, and I don't buy it because no one, and I mean no one, is this absolutely brilliant at being this goddamn dense. It just cannot be possible. Okay, those rugged cowboys, let's just say that's all it was. No women or children, even though of course there would have to be. They were planning on starting communities there for the Count of Monte Cristo's sake. It's just cowboys. Well, they were obviously capable of building those saloons you probably think were the only building that existed because cowboys, so why would they not be able to build pretty much anything else they would have wanted to?
And they didn't. That's the thing. They didn't build these structures.
You know what? That's entirely possible. These more complex things, I could see the original settlers not immediately building something that ornate at first. But once you get a few townships started, they start trading. Eventually, they want their places of worship to be a bit fancier because, you know, literal God. And at this point, you've got a couple of more capable builders going from town to town, fixing up god houses. It wouldn't be that hard, and it wouldn't even take that long. Probably just a few years, but they most certainly wouldn't just be there before they turned up or something like that, because that literally makes zero sense. And you think someone might have noticed they were there and maybe written it down.
Something about these masts is electrical. All the little spires, and see how it looks like there's like wiring.
Ugh, come on, it's just a style, man. A common one for churches. And those wires, they look to me like they were something put there to stop the detaily type bits from breaking off. Apologies for the technical terminology. From whatever might damage it, be it animal or vandal or bad weather. And you know what? Even if it were, quote, electrical, whatever that means, churches often will have lightning conductors on them, because they're like the tallest buildings in any given space, especially way back then.
It's electrical, and these buildings had their own ability to harness electricity out of the atmosphere.
Oh, not this one again. This is literally the dumbest conspiracy theory I think I've ever heard. And I'll let Hans here help explain why it's so goddamn dumb.
Still today, that's how electricity is harnessed for free out of the atmosphere.
Honestly, I think it speaks for itself, but fine, I got a free minute to point out why that's an idiotic thing to believe. If that were true, then why exactly do you pay for electricity? Well, why do your parents or grandparents or long-suffering spouse? Because I'm 99% sure you aren't capable of producing income. But why is the electricity you are definitely using right now to make this video paid for by someone? And not say coming out of a series of paper clips you have strung across your roof. You know why? Because, well, technically you can draw some power out of thin air. The amount of electricity you could possibly acquire is not enough to power a potato, let alone anything as power hungry as a computer. And also, you don't get electrocuted to death every time you put your hands on a large metallic object, like a car, do you?
But these church buildings are just a perfect example. There's too many of them.
As a filthy, God-hating atheismo worshipper, I agree. You'll need more Greggs the Bakers instead. Can never get enough of those, and their caramel custard donuts. Holy crap, those things are amazing!
They're too nice.
Wait, guys. Why is this building so nice? It's just the place where we come every single week as a community to worship what we believe to be the literal creator of the universe. Why is it so clean and taken care of? No. Tear it down and replace it with a strip club / drug den. Now that's how you worship our Lord and Saviour. Actually, I would totally go to church if it was all strippers and weed. Mostly for the spectacle.
The stories surrounding their origin just doesn't make any sense.
The story of a person or persons who built a building. Yeah, I can see why that tall tale is just full of plot holes. I mean, everybody knows that houses are just found, buried underground like turnips, and just dug up and reused. That's why there are so many skeletons in my house, and literally no other reason.
We're supposed to believe that a bunch of wretched cowboys that had nothing had the means of building these beautiful masonry structures.
Yes, they were setting up towns. You know that the cowboy shooty bang movies aren't actually accurate to the time period, right? You know there were people who did other things too, like shopkeepers and farmers, and in fact people who would have been master masons, etc. Perhaps learning the skills there, or they just had them before they left, wouldn't have really mattered. You have the historical understanding of a 5-year-old. In fact, no, I'll bet even they would understand it takes a lot more than a couple of cowboys to make a community, you thick twat.
All they did was refurbish them. They dug them out of the sediment, they cleaned them up, they refurbished them.
I'm not angry. I'm not angry that you took my stupid idea and made it real, as you usually do. No. But I do have one thing to say. What the hell is wrong with you? Hey, I'm still mad, but only because you said they were too clean and then literally said they cleaned them. Get your goddamn story straight. I don't mind the ridiculousness. It's the inconsistency that drives me to distraction.
So I tried to mostly look at churches in Salem, Oregon. Salem is short for Jerusalem.
You tried to limit your pool of study instead of expanding it so you might actually understand why things are the way they are and can instead point out the apparent inconsistencies in one place. I guess it's a good way to make it kind of look like you might have a point, eh?
It is one of Oregon's few high-style Gothic revival churches outside of Portland. You're telling me that these cowboys, these rugged West cowboys, were, these great craftsmen building Gothic revival?
No, but then I don't think that literally the only thing that existed back then were the Yeehaw boys running around with their moo-moos trying to get across to get the fat of the lamb. Or however the hell cowboys actually spoke. No, I'm not going to look it up. I refuse to do more research than he has.
The story makes no sense. How does that make any sense? Oh, we're just these poor travelers in this new land. Let's go ahead and build Gothic revival churches.
Yes, when you come up with your own version of events without actually looking into the full history or even a broad overview of what actually happened and just make completely baffling assumptions about what did, those assumptions are going to be stupid. What a shock.
They seem so out of place, and the stories never made sense, and guess what? They never really have good evidence of building these buildings, so you just have to take their word for it, that they built these things.
And so, of course, you have evidence that they dug them up and refurbished them, right? Right? What you don't You just made up some nonsensical crap without even a shred of evidence and decided that that was the truth and everyone else must be lying, even though we have no proof of scattered abandoned churches dotting the land at all that are secretly what? Ancient something or others? No evidence of that either, by the way, even though the churches are just there waiting to be looked at and proven real fake. But we do have bundles and bundles and bundles of proof of people building buildings.
How often do you see people make masonry buildings with so much ornamentation?
If you mean the few hundred years ago it would have been, never. I didn't live on Earth back then, and if I was a humans, I wouldn't have been alive, would I? But if you mean now, hardly ever. But then I don't go around looking for people building oldie worldy style buildings, and the buildings I do see people building are just using modern methods that are a lot more efficient, quick, and most importantly for any prospective building maker, cheaper.
These people were supposed to be the first people settling here, and you want to tell me that they just jumped straight to this? When you're settling a new place, do you just jump straight to this? It's not like they build a little wooden place to worship. They have these immensely decorated masonry buildings. It's just not believable.
I'll tell you what's hard to believe, that someone would spend so much time going into this nonsense week in, week out, instead of doing literally anything else. No, I don't mean super hands. I mean me. What the hell is wrong with me? Please send help. Guys, don't forget to panic buy sick brand merch. What if you need to let people know that you are handsome, famous and good at the sex in a variety of tasteful colours? Buy as many as you can afford now before this thing that's printed to order runs out. Also, you can use it as toilet paper if needs be. You never know when you're going to need to wipe your arse.